everybody, it's Alyce-Kay Ruckelshaus, and I'm planning to do a couple things right now on this video. The last one went a lot longer than I expected, so I'm sorry about that. And again, my camera will cut off after about 30 minutes. So if I go more than 30 minutes, it's going to cut off and start a new video. So watch for the part B if it stops like in the middle of a sentence or stops in the middle of doing something. So we made this pocket in the last one, and I made it not for my Melody Made Floriculture journal because that is already really full, but for a journal that I'm making for a friend. And I found the page that I want to put it on, not this one, it's on the other side. But I think if we have time, we will also make another pocket like this, and it will be one with sunflowers on it. And I'm not sure which bag I'm going to use. So I'm going to set these aside. If we have time, then we'll do that. And I'm going to keep these trims here because I will probably want to use some of those. I love those trims. I've printed out a ton, and I'm probably going to use it in almost every journal that I make from now on because I really like them. They really fit with me because they're really bright. Okay, so I'm not sure if I can do this actually, but I think I'll just go ahead and punch through. It might not because it's not straight. I'm not sure how much it's going to punch, but we'll see. I bought this. This is actually an envelope punch, but it's nice. Yes, it didn't do very much. It's nice because it'll also punch the little thumb hole in pockets and stuff. So I'll get this out of the way. Sorry about that. I was trying to set it up against something and it fell. So I like this right here. I love the contrast of that and everything. I like the way that it juxtaposes with the train. Another possibility was on these bricks, but that's just, I don't know, that's a little boring to me. I really like this right here. So that's what I'm going to put it on. Now I can sew it on, but I think I'm going to glue it. So what I prefer to do is take out the page that I'm going to put it on, since I haven't already bound this, and that way it's just easier to work with. And I know where my fold is. You can't really see that, but I can. I think actually I have a couple. No, I don't. That's a flip. Okay. So I want this to also be open from the side. So what I need to do is I need to glue the back along here, and along here. Okay, so the tall side is the side that we're going to leave open. And I want to glue this part of the rose down that's sticking out. Okay, so again, I'm going right along the edges, right like that. So right along there, I'm getting that rose. Do I have all this in camera? I changed where I've got this, so I'm hoping that this is going to work. It just seemed like the last one was a little far away, so I brought the camera down, but that also means that I have, oh shoot, I didn't want to do that side. But it also means that I have less space to work with. Okay, I need to wipe that off. This is what happens when you're talking and gluing at the same time. Okay. And I don't want it quite centered on the page. I want it over here by the edge because I want that to be a pocket. So it's not like right up against the edge, but it's not centered either. Okay. All right. So I'm going to make sure that that's down, and I'm pushing it hard and wiping off any that comes out. It's glued along the top, so I've got that there. It's glued here, and it's glued along the bottom. I'm holding the lace as I'm doing that. Okay. And then I want to make sure that I can still get in to the pocket. Okay, from the side here. Yes, I can. Okay. So fortunately, I didn't get that glued shut. And then we've got the inside of the sack right here is a pocket. Okay, and then we've also got a pocket right here. So we have 3 pockets on this page. That's one of the things that I love about junk journals is all these pockets mean that you have that much extra space. I just love stuff that has a lot of space. Okay, so that's done, and we can put that back into the signature here. Okay, and then I'm going to set that journal aside. Okay, then I want to work on this sunflower one. I'm just really not sure which bag I want to use. I kind of like the plaid. I think I'm going to use that. And I've got an extra sunflower seed thing, so I can always do that on there too. But I also think that the birds would look really cool on the sunflowers. All these birds. I mean, I'm not going to use all of them. I would just use a few. But I think those look really cool too. So I'm going to set that aside, and we're just going to work with this. Okay, so we'll see if I can get this done before the camera cuts off. I probably should have done my fussy cutting ahead. Sorry, I didn't. Okay, so I'm just going to use part of this bud here. And I am going to fussy cut it, so I'll just talk while I'm doing it. Yeah, so I don't know if I told you guys about, I know that I mentioned it in my last video because I said that I was using some of the things from the Melody Made kit in it. But my dad's journal that I did for him for Father's Day, he does genealogy. I mean, he's retired, obviously, and my mom is prayer walking across the U.S., and they've come to the place where they've realized that she can't do all that walking anymore. It would just take them forever, and so they're driving some of it and walking some of it. She's walked across the U.S. before, so right now what she's trying to do is she's trying to hit all the states that she didn't prayer walk in earlier. So it's probably going to be about 5 years of travel. And so, you know, my dad's her support person. They have a motorhome and a van, and it's just the two of them. My daughter had helped for a little while, and my brother helped for a while, but now it's just the two of them. And so they drive to one place where they're going to stay for a week or two. Like right now they're in Wisconsin, and then they're going to be walking some in Iowa, but they're going to camp in Minnesota. And so they go and they get a camping spot at a campground, one that has bathrooms and everything usually, and they park the motorhome there. And then each day my dad drives my mom to wherever she stopped walking the day before. And he drops her off, and she walks and prays and talks to people that she meets and stuff. And then, he checks on her throughout the day to make sure that everything's okay. And of course they've got cell phones. And then at the end of the day, he picks her up and they go back to the campground. They mark where she stopped so that she can start again at the same place. And it's usually something like, a restaurant or, a rest stop, something that is easy to tell exactly where it is. And then they do the same thing the next day. And so, my dad has a lot to do because of this. I think he's probably doing the laundry and the grocery shopping and stuff. I'm not really sure how they've worked that out. But he still does have some time. So he's been doing genealogical research for quite a few years now. I'm guessing probably about 20, but maybe more or less. I'm not sure. About 20, let's just say. And he's, when they've had to go abroad, like to Europe and stuff, they've specifically gone to the Czech Republic because that's where some of his ancestors are from. And so he's gone there, and he's found a guy there who can research for him when he can't be there, and who translates stuff for him that he finds. And he has found our ancestral village and some of our relatives 9 times removed, kind of thing. And they've come over to visit a couple times with a translator. They bring a translator with them and stuff. And so it's just really cool. And so, but he also, obviously is researching family in the United States, because our ancestors moved here in about, most of them, I think, in the 1800s. But there were some who were here at the time of the Revolutionary War and actually fought in the war. And so he's been doing some research on them. He and my son were doing research for a while in order to join the Sons of the American Revolution. And Dad has continued with that. And when he and my mom were in Maine at the beginning of this walk, they actually got to see the house that the brother of our ancestor built in Maine. So that was very cool. And so, yeah. So anyway, so he's got pictures of that. He's got the pedigree of the house. What I mean by the pedigree of the house is like, who owned it when and everything. And so I did a journal for him for Father's Day that was a Revolutionary War themed journal that specifically focused on the battle that these two brothers fought in. Our ancestor and his older brother. Our ancestor was Micah and the older brother was Benjamin. And they fought at Penobscot Bay in Maine, which was then part of the Massachusetts colony. And it was the greatest naval disaster in American history until Pearl Harbor. And then Micah, who is my ancestor, actually also fought in another battle. I think it was called Sandy Beach. And for that, he was given a land grant out in Minnesota, which was really funny because I lived in Minnesota for a few years to help my daughter and son-in-law with they had 4 very small children. And so I lived there for 5 years in Minnesota. And not my favorite place. Sorry to those of you who live in Minnesota and love it. I am a California girl, and so the harsh cold weather was just way too much for me. Minnesotans have a saying that when hell freezes over, school will start 2 hours late. And I think that's probably true. Because they there's a blizzard, everybody still goes to work. It's like no big deal. And I understand, because if they stopped for every blizzard, then, they wouldn't get anything done. But it's crazy. I don't like that at all. I do not like the harsh weather. I always loved cold weather before that, and I loved snow because I had only lived here in Tennessee, where we have about 1 or 2 inches for the entire winter. And that was really nice. And I thought, oh yeah, snow's great. I love it. But then being up there in that, it was just way too much. So I had said, who on earth, what kind of strange people would ever choose to settle a place like this? Well, guess what? One of my ancestors did. And it wasn't really so much, and it wasn't the ancestor who fought in the battle. He was 93 when he applied for it, but his descendants settled it. And he didn't get a choice, I don't think, of where his land was going to be. It was just here, you get some land in this godforsaken place where it snows 8 months out of the year. It cracks me up because, April, all the snow would melt. And everybody would clean their yards because the snowplows would throw rocks up onto your lawn and stuff, which was at that point covered with several feet of snow. But, the snow melts and then you have all these rocks on your lawn. And so everybody cleans that all up and everything. And they get all ready for summer. And then Memorial Day comes along and it snows sometime on Memorial Weekend. Every year that we were there, it snowed on Memorial Weekend. It was hilarious. And people are all like, oh, it doesn't usually do this. Well, I don't know. Maybe it doesn't usually do this, but it definitely did when we were there. Every freaking year on Memorial Day it snowed. Or not necessarily on Memorial Day, but on that weekend. It was just crazy. And that is really, my hat's off to you if you live there and like it, because you are one brave and hearty soul. I did not like it. So what was I saying? Oh, so one of my ancestors, so this is who my dad is researching, and he's done a ton of work on it, and it's just really cool. And so anyway, so I made this journal that was about the two brothers, and about the house and about the battle that they fought in. And then I found somebody steered me in the direction of the Library of Congress. Oh my word, you guys, if you want anything historical, that is the place to go. And one of the really cool things is that they make it very clear on each thing if there are any restrictions in using it, like is it copyrighted or not, and whatever. And so you don't have to do any guessing about that, and I really, really appreciate that. So I got Thomas Jefferson's rough draft of the Declaration of Independence that I printed out to put in this journal for my dad, and a note written in George Washington's hand requesting the presence of his Secretary of State, who was Thomas Jefferson, to dinner that evening. Just an informal note, and just stuff like that, just really, really cool stuff that I was just like freaking out about all the time, because it was so amazing to see this stuff, and then just to have the ability to print it out and use it. That's the kind of stuff that we have available to us now because of the internet. It's just really cool. So you do want to be really careful about like copyrights and anything like that. But like I said, that's one of the things that's nice about the Library of Congress website, is because it lists those things very carefully. And yeah, it's just really neat. So there were all kinds of like letters from different famous people to other famous people. Of course, I don't think they were famous necessarily at the time. Some of them were, like, President Washington and stuff. But just really cool. I'm kind of hoping to see if I can find John and Abigail's letters on there. I know that they're published in a book, so I can always find them that way. But I've always been so fascinated by them as a couple. They're just so cool, so romantic, and she had such a strong influence on him. And other leaders knew that, and they really respected her, and she was just quite a woman. In fact, we named one of our cats Abigail Adams Ruckelshaus, because we both Bill and I really admire her and him. So yeah, anyway, Library of Congress, very, very cool. So I'm really happy with the way that this journal turned out. And I had made my mom a different kind of journal for Mother's Day. But my dad, I did a full-fledged junk journal for him, because like I told my husband, he appreciates a mess like I do. Okay, so I want to use some distressing ink on these white areas, and also along the edges, because there's some places where there's white showing and stuff. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. I'm doing it on the back of this bag that's not going to show, so I don't have to worry about that at all. But you see how the white is becoming, it's kind of fading out into the background. It's becoming more, it's closer to the color of the bag, and so it's not going to stand out like a sore thumb like that. And I'm not doing like a real thorough inking on this, but like places where I've got some white on the edges that I didn't cut quite all the way off, I'm getting those, because those will really show up against the brown. So I just want to make sure that I've gotten all of those. And then this piece has a lot of the white on it. How are we doing time-wise? I can't really see. I think we're okay. But like I said, you guys, be aware that it might cut off, and then it'll just go into a second part. So this has a lot of white on it. So just get that. Okay. And it just also makes it look kind of older, which I like. I'm not really into modern things that much. Okay. So there we go. So we've got that. And where are my verses? I want my verses to. Oh, here they are. Okay, sorry about that. I had to find my verses because I want those. Okay, I'm not sure if I'm going to need any of these leaves. I think I've got enough green here. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to have this. Well, I should cut this first, huh? Okay, so let's go ahead and cut this. And need to close up my ink. Let's go ahead and do our cutting. And I'm going to use it in this journal, so I want to go figure out what the size is going to be. I'm not quite sure where I'm going to use it. I think I had found a place. Yeah, because I've got a sunflower right here, so I want it right here on this wood part. So, it needs to be cut like about here. I'm going to cut that just a little bit different from the other one. Still cutting it curved, but not quite as deeply curved. I'm saving this piece. Okay, and before I forget, I'm going to make a thumb hole in this top part. It'll be easier before it's all glued and everything. Let's see if I can fit that in there. So I'm going to have to turn it upside down to just get that part. But I think it should work. Oh, not really. It kind of did. Okay, well, all right. I don't think that works very well on paper bags. I think paper bags are maybe a little too flimsy. But I'm going to take some ink there and hopefully that'll make it stand out so that we know that we've got a thumb hole there. Okay. So then how wide do I need it? I need to definitely cut off this edge here, because it didn't print over to that side. Okay, and then I'm not used to my trash being on that other side. And then how wide do I need to, so I still need to cut off about the same amount on this side too. I don't know why I keep using these scalloped edge scissors, because every time I think, oh, I shouldn't use these next time because they're a real pain, but then I use them again. Okay, so that barely fits. I'm going to actually trim this down a little bit shorter, and I think I do want it at more of an angle. Okay, there we go, and I'll save this part that's printed on. I like that. Okay, and like I had said before, I should sew along the top of this. I'm going to take out these little pieces that are just falling out because they have no use. Okay, and I'm just going to sew across the top of this to strengthen it so that when I use it as a pocket, it doesn't get all bent up and everything. I just like to do that, and like I keep saying, you don't have to sew. You absolutely don't have to sew. But paper bags are kind of thin paper, so I like to strengthen them a bit. Okay, and then I'm going to sew together these two sides. Okay, here's our pocket right here, so we don't want to sew that closed, but we do want to sew up the two sides. Wow, that's not straight at all, but I think it's going to be okay. All right, it looks like a bag. So we're going to sew up the two sides. I'm using a zigzag stitch. If you don't have a sewing machine or you don't want to sew, you can glue those sides together. That's perfectly fine. Are you getting tired of hearing me say that? I keep saying it because somebody might watch a video in the middle of the series and they haven't heard me say that, and I think that it's important to know that you don't have to sew. It's important to know that you don't have to sew. All right, I'm tired, I'm getting punchy, sorry. Okay, so there we have the beginnings of our pocket. Okay, so we can put something in here, we can put something in here, and because this is on a left-hand page, the side pocket's going to be over on this side. Okay? All right, so where is our stuff? What verse do I want? Let me put those scissors out of the way. I think I want, ooh, I like this one. For I am confident of this very thing, that he who began a good work in you will perfect it until the day of Christ Jesus. I like that. Sometimes, you guys, we don't feel that we're becoming better. And we are painfully aware of how much we blow it. I think women are more aware of that than men. I could be wrong because I'm not a man, but men seem to be a lot more confident and sure of themselves and feel better about themselves. It seems like a lot of women have more self-image problems. That could just be the people I know. I don't know, but okay, so I like to tear it. I've got this written, the verse written in 2 parts, and then I've got the reference. So I'm going to go ahead and tear those into 3 parts. Oh, I'm not used to having my trash on the other side. Okay, so, and then I'm going to put distressing ink on this because I don't want white up against that. That would be very stark. Philippians 1:6 is what the reference is, just in case you were wondering and can't see it. There we go. Okay, I like that. That's good. Okay, so I'm going to turn the bag over again so I can use it for putting my distressing ink on. And I don't need the bag like under it while I'm doing the edges. It's not like there's ink that falls off or anything, so I don't want to give you that impression. It was fun talking to my dad after he saw the flip through of his journal that I made him, because he was asking questions about like what I was doing when I was doing this. That wasn't in the flip through, but I did a few videos while I was making it, and I was just talking about my dad and kind of, you know, a tribute to him, telling about his life. Some of which I'm told I got a little wrong, but for the most part, I got it right, so that was good. You know, it's like you hear these stories when you're a little kid, and sometimes you imagine things to go with them. And, you know, then it's, when I was telling stuff, I was like, you know, I'm not sure if this is right or not. So my dad spent a couple hours correcting me and telling me more to the stories. It was really fun. Some things that I don't think I had ever heard before, and so that was kind of fun. If he had told me that stuff before I did the videos, I would have had to do 5 or 6 videos. But anyway, so yeah, so he was intrigued by this distressing ink and stuff, and what I was doing with that and why, and you know, I told him that I don't like to have any white showing when I'm doing something that's supposed to look historical or old or anything like that. And he said, you know, I pay good money for bright white paper. I'm like, yeah, I do too. If I could get beige paper, I probably would, but it's so much more expensive than the white paper, at least from what I've seen. If any of you know of a good source for like beige or tan paper, let me know, because that would save me a lot of time. Oh, I also wanted to do this. You probably can't tell on the camera, but this is making it look like not quite so new. It's making it look a little grungier. And then I want to just distress around the edges. I think I will punch that hole in it, even though I'm gluing it down flat, just to let the paper bag show through. It's been very warm here. I'm not sure what the temperature has been, but it's been, I shouldn't say very warm. It's probably like 70s or 80s is my guess. But there's been a lot of humidity, and I really stinking hate humidity. That's another thing about being a California girl. We don't have much humidity there, so we don't, you know, we're not used to all this, mugginess. It's really icky. There we go. Okay. All right, so now, how do we want to lay this out? I'm actually not sure I'm going to use that sunflower seed thing. I don't think I am. I'll set that aside for the other one. But I like this. I like that in the background, like that. And it can stick off a little bit on this side, that's fine. And then this. Okay, so I have to be careful not to glue it down to cover up that pocket, or else I'll have to cut it to fit in the pocket. That looks good. What do you guys think? I like that. I'm not even sure we're going to need any lace. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, let's glue this down first. I'm pretty sure, you guys, that this is going to cut into 2 videos. Sorry, I know that's kind of inconvenient, but if someone knows, I have a Pixel 2 is my phone, and it always cuts off. It used to cut off at 11 minutes and some odd seconds. Now it goes to 30 minutes or 31 minutes or something like that in some odd seconds. There must be something that, like I changed a setting, but I don't know what it was. And if I could change that to be longer, that would be really great. So if anybody knows anything, because I just don't know much tech-wise, and I would really appreciate the tips. Or if you kind of want to come visit me for a few days and help me with all this tech stuff, that would be awesome. Okay, seriously. Okay, so there we go. Okay, and I'm, like I explained in the last one, I'm taking my wipe and I'm putting that down. Now that went across the pocket, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go really quickly before all this glue dries, and I'm going to cut that pocket open. So I'm cutting right there. Okay, so now, see that? Okay, so I still have that pocket. And I'll do the same thing with this sunflower. But I think I want this one to be in first because it's going to be kind of underneath. Okay, so, and I think I'll do it over the pocket again and just cut through that.